This is The Road to Little Dribbling by Bill Bryson. It was his follow-up to Notes from a Small Island, which was a fabulous book that came out about 20 years ago, and perhaps is a cautionary tale about revisiting the past. A few years ago, a car park security barrier hit me on the head. When I regained consciousness, my first thought was, what on earth is the world coming to? 20 years ago, when I was writing Notes from a Small Island, the barrier would have been made of steel and I'd have been killed outright. Now it's just made out of some cheap plastic and it merely left me with a headache. It's health and safety gone mad. As I was telling this story for the third or possibly fourth time over lunch to my publisher, Larry, I noticed that his eyes were glazing over. Look, Bill, he said kindly, can you either just shut the fuck up or write another book about everything else that's gone wrong in Britain? I nodded my head distractedly, disturbed to notice that the prawns I'd ordered were £9.75p a portion. I hoped Larry was paying for lunch. I began my journey in Bognor Regis, which I managed to miss entirely as I was preoccupied on the bus reading a magazine about a celebrity I'd never heard of called Katie Price. But I did manage to turn round to catch a glimpse of Bognor as the bus proceeded in an easterly direction towards Littlehampton, and concluded I hadn't missed very much. An hour or so later, I got out to walk a few miles along the South Downs near Eastbourne. The scenery was undoubtedly very pretty, though I have to say the experience was spoilt by encountering so many disagreeable other walkers along the way. I secretly hoped that one or two would fall off the side of the cliffs, but unfortunately they didn't. On arrival at my destination, a bus driver demanded £3.60 to take me just a few miles back to where I'd come from. An extremely tawdry state of affairs that left me feeling very angry and hungry. So I chose to alleviate my symptoms with a visit to a local hostelry called McDonald's. I was disturbed to discover the influence of Scottish nationalism had reached the south coast of England. I made a point of not tipping the waiter for being over-polite to me. I then went to Dover. God knows why. The place was a complete dump 20 years ago, and it's even worse now. On my journey westwards, I was once again struck about how disappointing Stonehenge was. Having discovered that the entry price was an extortionate £12.80, I decided I couldn't be bothered to view a few stones, most of which had fallen over, from afar, and carried on along the A303. This, too, annoyed me. Why was the A303 called the A303? Couldn't the British have come up with a more simplified numbering system for their road network by now? I was going to stay in Lyme Regis and Torquay, but chose to take a principled stand at being asked to pay £5.70 for a cheese and pickle sandwich, so I drove straight on to Cornwall. I might as well have walked as the roads were so narrow. Then traffic was often at a standstill. Why bother to have all these so-called beauty spots if you're going to make it so difficult to reach them? I stayed the night at a Premier Inn near Barnstaple that guaranteed me a good night's sleep. I have to say, the cost of the hotel room kept me awake all night. So much for the hotel's promises. Now that I was well over 2/3 of the way through my book, it occurred to me I hadn't travelled anywhere further north than Oxford, so I booked myself a train to Birmingham. For a price of £33, I expected rather better service than to be made to smell stale farts and to listen to dozens of people talking on their mobile phones. Not everyone was even talking in English, which made matters more confusing. At Birmingham, I immediately changed trains and went to Liverpool, which was almost as dismal as Birmingham. I did find one quite nice town nearby. It began with a B, if I remember correctly, but the occasion was spoilt by being charged £3.35 for a pint of beer. Though many of its inhabitants proved poor company, I have never met a northerner who had ever read a book, parts of Yorkshire and the Lake District were adequate in a run-down sort of way. I couldn't stay long though, partly because everything was so expensive, but mainly because I was in a hurry to conclude my journey at the tip of Scotland. The original plan had been to drive to Cape Wrath, but something else came up, so I flew there instead. I'm not sure the £14 coach fare from the airport was value for money. There again, you may feel that 20 quid for this book isn't either.